Hi guys, welcome to another video from Overbite Gaming, and today we're talking about Star Trek The Next Generation Final Unity. This was it's an interesting one. I've got a couple of stories on this one, but essentially it comes down to being a point-and-click adventure set in Star Trek The Next Generation.
They are not
I'm not real sure where it sits in the series, to be fair with you.
The Warbird's tracker beam is creating too much interference.
I think it came out after Generations release for a start, which was kind of weird, and the show had already ended, but it had been pushed back. And I know it had been pushed back because I pre-ordered it and had to wait for like 6 months to get it. Which was torturous because I was a huge Next Generation fan at the time. I still am, but as I've said previously, DS9 was more of my jam, so that took its place in my heart, shall we say. It's voiced by all of the main characters, the actors from the show, I should say.
As long as the Warbird maintains a tractor beam on the scout ship,
it's a good game. It's point and click mainly. There are combat sections in it. The combat is really janky. Your best bet is just let Worf handle it, and even then it's a toss-up whether he does or doesn't. So save often, and when you hit those combat sections, let Worf do it, and eventually he'll win, and you can carry on with the game. It does have a really nice feature of having access to Data's terminal, which is the ops terminal, and it basically gives you access to the ship library, and it has a whole load of information. It's kind of like a cut-down version of Rikakuda's technical manual, just put in Data's console. So it's a real nice thing to be able to sit and read if you like the show. There's also, you can get to the holodeck as well, which just allows you to watch cinematics that you've unlocked in the game. And it's a reasonably good story. I think my main bugbear with it is, once again, we're using species made up for the game rather than anything from the show. So in this, you're helping some Garidians who are essentially Romulans. They're like
the crew of the scout
sort of a subset of Romulans that exist in their space and use their technology. Help find basically a religious article called the Fifth Scroll, which dictates how their societies perceive, because they have two classes, the patricians and the plebeians, and they've got rules governing the patricians but nothing that gives rights to the plebeians. So they're after that, and it could be like a huge social change on their world, and you help them. And it turns into like finding out about this ancient race called the Chodak, who look very cartoonish. They're basically big floating faces in sort of pods that float about the place and have little mechanical arms on them. If you think like MODOK, you're not too far off. It's a little different, but it's similar kind of thing. Well, I don't know. Quantum Mania MODOK may be slightly worse.
This time, Captain, but I promise you, there will be a next time.
Okay, so it actually takes place between the first 2 episodes of the 7th season. So there you go. And the Chodak do turn up in a few other properties where, I mean, they're a race in Birth of the Federation that you can find, and they're also in Star Trek Generations. Something I may cover if I can get the damn thing right. And there's a lot to be said. I mean, it's a standard point and click. You have your 4 action buttons, which are look, use, walk, and talk. And then you have your inventory at the bottom, and you wander around. You can speed up their pace if you think they're running around a bit fast in the footage. It's because if you hold down shift, it speeds them up, so you have to wait for them to walk across rooms and stuff, which is a nice little addition actually, because yeah, they do meander a bit. They don't exactly run.
Perhaps it was a cloaked
You also get to pick, well, depending on your difficulty setting. If you stick to the lowest difficulty setting, which you will want to do at some point for the action scenes, because some of them are just horribly difficult. You'd be like fighting like 3 Romulan warbirds, for instance, and then Chodak ships. It's ridiculous. But if you set it on Ensign, it will pick your away team for you. You can sort of pick the wrong characters, like certain characters will be able to have conversations and skills required to complete the missions on the various planets you go to. There's a fully featured star map. You can fly around it. There's nothing to do in most of the systems. You can just fly there if you want. You can change, like when you start going to a mission, it's all done automatically. But sometimes it's a ways away, and it takes a little while. If you're going like warp 5, you're like, oh, screw this. So you can go into the con and reset the navigation and increase the warp speed that you're going, so you get there quicker.
Yes, Captain.
There's no actual con character. Picard has always stood in front of the con and you can't see. This was the point of the show where they didn't really have a con character because Wesley and Rolaren had both left at that point. So, you know, we had a few sort of notable sort of day players and stuff like that. I mean, the one that played, I can't remember her name, but the woman from Space Above and Beyond was one at one point. But yeah, you didn't really have too. I mean, they were in there for like a few episodes, and then someone else would be there, and you'd be like, yeah, okay. Thought maybe that was getting character progression, but no, we're just hiring whoever, because what does it matter who steers the ship? But yeah, I mean, the point and click is good fun. There's a couple of irritating sections. This is the second planet you visit, Marasia. Not a great one. I don't really like the design of it. You go to different biomes and you have to get different samples and take them back to the lab and analyze them. It gets a bit tedious. There is also a killer floor puzzle you have to work out later in the game, which is a bit tedious as well, where you have to step on the right squares, or otherwise it kills you. Yeah, you know, standard puzzle game fare. I mean, if you didn't like Star Trek, or well, I shouldn't say if you didn't like Star Trek. If you didn't like Star Trek, you'd hate the game no matter what. But if you were sort of, if you didn't mind Star Trek but you weren't a huge fan, then you know it's still a relatively decent point-and-click adventure. But the real sort of capturing point is the fact it's Star Trek: The Next Generation, and you can play what's essentially an episode of Star Trek and Command the Enterprise and all of that. It is old. It came out in June '95 over here, and that is burned into my memory because it was just between me leaving school and starting college. And I'd been off, you know, obviously not doing anything for weeks, waiting for this fucking game to arrive. And it finally arrived on the day I had to go to my college orientation day. I was like, disappointed! And I got like to lunchtime. I'm like barely paying attention because I just wanted to go and play this shit. I got lunch, I looked at what was scheduled afterwards, and I was just like, dude, that's just like extracurricular stuff. I'm going home. I just fucking left there at the lunchtime when I played this shit. The first time I actually saw anything about the game, it was a trailer on a cover CD that I got, and it was just like the opening cinematic of the game. There was nothing really else to it. You didn't get to play it or anything. But I remember like one Saturday night I like filled up on cider and I just sat and watched that thing over and over again. I know. I'm gonna put the full intro movie at the end of the video so you can experience what it was like for me to sit here pissed on a Saturday night watching this fucking video multiple times. Oh god, those were the days. I cannot tell if any of the crew. So yeah, I was. Life support is still. I waited for so long for this game to come out. It was ridiculous. I think I got it from like Special Reserve, which was. I've talked about it before, but it was like a postal order company where you paid a subscription and you could buy games from them at slightly discounted prices. It was fine for the time. Obviously, nowadays it wouldn't stand up really against all the competitors, and it definitely went out of business. I don't think I ever left it. I think it just went out of business while I was a member, so nah, whatever. I believe I have a solution. It's one of those old memories you have from your childhood where if you told someone about it and how cool it was, they'd be like, what? That's lame. It's like those kids in Back to the Future too. Once we're in, we should be able to jettison the power core. I did have a little bit of trouble getting it running. I'm running it through DOSBox. Defend Reloaded. I'm using a GUI front end for DOSBox. And I did have a little bit of trouble, primarily, and I was installing it off of my original CD, and it just refused to recognize my CD drive being fast enough, which it obviously is, because it's a lot newer. I tried, like, slowing down DOSBox in order to, like, make the CD drive seem faster, but that didn't work. In the end, I had to copy the CD onto a hard disk and mount it from there, and then that was fine. It installed fine. It runs absolutely perfectly through DOSBox. If you are doing it manually, you might need to take the cycles down. I've done it like through DOSBox, just DOSBox without the front end, and the cycles were too high, so the combat was just unplayable. I mean, even more unplayable than it actually is, but it literally went so fast you couldn't do anything, so you would quickly assign it to Worf and let him get destroyed instead of you. So yeah, take the cycles down if you're having that problem, but that will be fine. And it's just a real good slice of nostalgia for me to come back and play it. It's a time from like my, I was going to say childhood, but I suppose young adulthood. God, I'm so old. Because this is getting on, this is like 28 years old, this game. That's an old game, man. And I got it when it came out, so it's an old person as well. But yeah, I mean, it's Star Trek Next Gen. At the point where I got it, I was still a huge fan of the show. They hadn't like spat on it with like Picard or anything by that point. So you know, and you know, it's just
a high capacity data transfer cable.
So faithful. It really feels like you are playing an episode of Next Gen, just like Harbinger was. But I think Harbinger definitely has less to it in terms of gameplay, because that's essentially just walking around and talking, with the occasional action sequence that also sucked. They didn't really get sort of the action sequences quite right until much later on. One of the games that did get it right, and I have tried multiple times to get running, I've got no idea whether I ever will, was Dominion Wars. Love that game, but that's a right bastard to get running. I don't know. I mean, I've tried for hours and hours, you know, over the years to get that sucker going, and it just won't. But I mean, you still have stuff like Bridge Commander and Legacy, stuff that plays fine and does the ship combat fine. Even STO. I like Star Trek Online, and the ship combat in that is perfectly fine. It's very sort of Starfleet Command type, but sort of dumbed down, if you like. But I think it works fine. You know, take down the shields, fire a few torpedoes in.
Takes care of the worst of her injuries. She's coming around
I'm
now.
a fan of that. But Star Trek Final Unity, it's... Like I say, I think the only bugbear I have is the fact that they just keep making up races to use in these games. It's like, dude, the Star Trek universe has so many cool races that you could use. It's like, you get a next-gen game, and you're like, I can't wait to play this. You know, is it gonna be political intrigue with the Klingons, or dealing with Romulan threats or stuff like that? And you're just like, no, I'm after these big face space vacuums. What?
What happened here?
That I've never heard of. It just, if you're buying a next gen game, it's just kind of like, I want to do what I see on the screen in next gen. I don't want you to like make up shit for me to do. Just use the established tools and tell a good story and give me a game I can play there. That's cool. But they just keep doing other stuff, which is not the case sort of like in later games. Obviously they make a lot more use of the established races and stuff. I think
What did you mean when you said the
the
power
next game that came out was Generations,
crazy?
and obviously they actually go the other way, because there are tons of Romulans on the Armagosa Observatory for some reason. I don't know why. I haven't played it in ages. Maybe I should see if I can get that one going. I don't remember it being very good though. I do remember shooting Romulans though, so there you go. And picking up their disruptors, which were way cooler than the Federation phases, in my opinion. But whatever.
You know what they've got down there?
Anyway, guys, that's my review of Final Unity.
A black hole.
I think that's what it was. Jesus Christ, I just blanked the name. Oh, I'm so old. Yes, a final Unity, I am correct.
Came up with some scheme to increase the energy output. Something
Ugh.
about gravity waves.
I really need to, like,
I don't know all the details, but it involved
like
destabilizing
brain training
the
or
containment
something.
field.
Dig out my DS and get started on it, I think.
Where are the rest of the station personnel?
Anyway, guys, take it easy.
Most
I'll catch
of
you
them
next time.
Probably escaped when
Captain's log, stardate 47111.1. A Federation listening post along the Romulan neutral zone has detected an unidentified vessel headed for Federation space. The Enterprise is moving to intercept.
At its reported heading and velocity, the vessel will enter Federation space in approximately 47.3 seconds.
Go to yellow alert.
We have the vessel on sensors.
The ship is a Garidian scout ship. They are driving their engines too hard. Their warp core is critical.
The Garidians. What is the status of their relationship with the Romulan Empire?
They're on friendly terms and may share technology.
We are being hailed.
On screen.
Help us. We are fleeing political persecution. We seek asylum. We are being persecuted.
Their signal is breaking up.
What do you make of this, number one?
It could be a trick.
The Garidians have earned a reputation as honorable warriors, Captain. They do not ordinarily resort to trickery.
We are within visual range. The Garidian's warp drive is failing. They are dropping to sublight speed inside Federation space.
Slow to impulse.
Warbird decloaking directly ahead. The Warbird is also Garidian. They are hailing us.
This is an internal Garidian matter. Withdraw at once.
You are violating Federation space.
They have cut off transmission.
The Warbird has locked its tractor beam onto the scout ship.
Go to red alert.